Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, this is Christian Brindle with Six Figure Medicare Agent. Hope this video finds you doing well. And we're back with another video. Today, guys, I have a very, very special guest that I'm excited to introduce to you. I have the one and only Medicare Misty here with me today. Misty, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How you doing, Kristen? Very good. It's
I'm doing
Monday.
well. I'm doing well, thanks. I've been really kind of looking forward to kind of doing this video with you today. I know that, I've always known the name Medicare Misty for a while now. And I think that kind of comes back to, a topic that we're going to get into in a little bit here, though, now is, like the branding behind kind of what you've been able to do with your business. But I think there's a lot of people out there that might be attending Medicare Con, and I know you were announced as a speaker, so congratulations for that.
Thank you.
I know I'm really excited to kind of see what to kind of tune in and kind of see your presentation from the stage. But I think there's a lot of people that might not know a lot behind the scenes of Medicare Misty. So I wanted to kind of start off by kind of talking about your story, your journey. First question that I had for you was, talk about how you got into the Medicare space. Why Medicare? I always find that really interesting because
Yes.
I feel like most of us never really planned to get here, and then all of a sudden here we are.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I was working at a corporate America, of course. They had a layoff, and then I wanted to get in pharmaceutical sales. I was inside on the phone, and I wanted outside freedom, and more money. But I had never done commission. I was a salary salesperson and a single mom. So when that was brought to me about commissions, it scared me to death, because even though they said, but you can make so much more, what does so much more mean?
Yeah. And then their answer probably would be, well, it depends on how hard you work.
Yeah.
And you're thinking like,
yeah.
well, I'm used to guarantees.
Yes. And I was always even on inside sales to top sales agents. So I wasn't worried about that. And I interviewed 25 times for pharmaceutical and never got the job.
Wow.
25 times. And I was crying. I'm like, what's wrong with me? But they kept saying, you don't have any outside sales. I'm like, how do you get outside sales if you're not going to give me a break? And then this lady came in Chattanooga and HealthSpring, which was what Cigna was before Cigna bought it. Cigna bought HealthSpring. And she said, hey, I like you. Would you like to sell Medicare? And I'm like, what's Medicare? I had even no idea what Medicare was. And she said, it's where seniors, when they retire, they get medical insurance. You're paying for Medicare right now, your FICA insurance. And I'm like, well, I didn't know what FICA was at that time. All I knew was I got a check. And so she laughed and she said, I said, well, I don't know anything about it. She said, I can teach you everything you need to know. But what I can't teach is personality. And the grandparents will love you. You'll make it fun. And I remember I was like, okay, I'm excited. It's my first sales job. And it was salary and commission, which was nice because it was a lower, excuse me, something got me.
Bless you.
Oh, thank you. And I remember that it was a little bit lower salary than I was making. And all I could remember, she's like, trust me, you will make more money. And I was like, okay, I'm scared here. And so she taught me the ropes, but it was funny too, because I tell my clients, 2 months in, I was like, I think you got the wrong girl. She said, what? And I said, there's no way I can remember all this. How do you remember all this? And I feel the pain when brokers come in and they have to learn 7 different products or companies, to where I was struggling learning Medicare with one company. Right. And I always tell them, I get it. It's hard. It's tough. And then when you add these other companies, on it too. So I started with HealthSpring. Humana had come and offered me a position saying HealthSpring's not paying you enough. Well, the commission was higher, but the salary was lower. So I'm getting more nervous because at that time, HealthSpring paid $30 a sale. And then you had to, yes. Can you imagine if I had started at the regular commission rates that we are at now? And instead of $30, and then you don't get to take it with you. See, none of this stuff was explained to you. And in school, in sales, all I had to do was be able to trust her. So I go, Humana comes and they're like, hey, we can pay you more. At that time, it was like in 20, Humana paid you for sales, and then it was 15,000 salary. So I said, okay. And I was already the number one agent at HealthSpring. So I said, okay, that means that's going to be more money because I'm going to make more sales and I'm going to pay more than $30 a sale.
That's a big difference.
A tier. Yeah, big. So I was at Humana, stayed with Humana, wanted to work my way up to sales manager. And the guy here said in Chattanooga, I'm probably not going anywhere unless I get a director. Well, the director was new. He's like, I'm not going anywhere. So I took a position in Iowa as a sales manager, moved from beautiful, sunny Chattanooga to freezing cold, hot as ever, Iowa, and stayed there for about 3 years. And Blue Cross Blue Shield offered a position to come home. And I was going to be the first outside captive agent for Blue Cross Blue Shield. They only use brokers. Yeah. So I was pretty excited and stoked, and I got to come home, and somebody moved me home. I didn't have to move, ourselves. And I stayed there until 2011, and they had healthcare reform, and they laid our whole department off. And at that time is where Medicare Misty came in effect. And what I did, I had the blessing of working with these other companies and already have the relationship with the carriers, plus the senior centers, and just went out on my own, got certified. The scary part, which I see the pain of everybody, is trying to find an FMO that is loyal. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have Medicare gurus. We didn't have six-figure, Christian. So, you just had to stumble your way and hope that what they said was true and that would happen. And I went direct in a lot of ways because I really didn't even know FMOs. So I stayed direct and I went captive with United Healthcare as a ICA. And they had and I was actually their first captive IMO. So in Chattanooga. But what was happening, the biggest hospital dropped off the network, and the promises that they were giving us, leads, events, all that had kind of dwindled. Yeah. So it was an opportunity for me to go out and go get with everybody and and have more opportunity. But then again, I'm fishing, trying to find, what does that mean? How do I do that? United Healthcare is not going to show me because they're upset. They made the IMO position for me. So to be able to, they're kind of upset, which happens, that we're in sales. And so this happens. And so the first FMO that I was with didn't do everything he said, like we know. And then I worked my way up, and I'm now with the guy I actually should have been with to begin with. It was our regional vice president of Humana, which has been phenomenal. But as you know, leaving is not easy.
Yep. It's no cakewalk. That's for sure.
No cakewalk. It's your business, but not really.
So when did you actually contract with them officially? When did you move your contracts over to them, the place you're with today? June of this year?
Of this year.
Wow. Yeah. How about that? So fairly recent.
Very recent. Yeah.
So one question I had for you, Misty, that just kind of sparks another question in my mind. Why do you feel like it's so difficult to move contracts for people? Like, is it because I found that really no matter which FMO you're dealing with, when you are moving contracts, it's going to be a little bit of teeth pulling. Why do you think that is? Why do you think the process is the way that it is?
Well, I'll even talk on, even with my personal offense, when, somebody wants to leave. At first you're like, oh, what happened?
What did I do? Yeah.
Like, what did I do? And nobody wants to lose anybody. When you break up with somebody, when you don't want to do it. And when you put money into with people, whether it's some, a little, or none, I think it's the whole, I'm being rejected, and I've got the upper hand, instead of, because the guy that I'm with now, that I was with at the beginning, Christian, he said, okay, he called his assistant, here's your release, no drama, nothing. And I still was able to call him, and he would answer any of my questions. I mean, he never burned bridges. He never did anything. Yeah. And that's when I had went to the second one that I'd been through. I said, and this is before really knowing you guys, because everybody my FMO previous now, or the one before, was talked bad about all of y'all. It's all fluff. They're lying, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so you were scared, to do until now. I mean, Jess and I just had this talk because, and same thing with Joanna, it was all they're fluffing it up. They're using Facebook. Don't believe everything on Facebook. And until I reached out to Justin to say, hey, tell me about you. Like, I'm telling him what I'm hearing. He goes, doesn't surprise me. And then he told me his story. I'm not going to tell his story because, that's his to tell. And I think that's where we miss out on is we don't do our own research. We go and we listen to other people, and we're scared because we're scared to get taken advantage of. But on the broker side, one, it's mean, it's evil. And I think it's just feelings and rejection, and it's money.
Yeah.
And I'm a big team. I mean, I've got 30 agents. I'm in 23 states. I have 2 GAs. That's not an easy thing to lose, right before AEP, either. And he did give, marketing money. He did pay for my radio, which was our agreement for me to move my contract to begin with. But I needed more, and I had got offered more, and I went to him first and said, hey, I'm, being offered this. If you can match it, I will stay. And he said no. And I think he thought I wouldn't leave, but who's not going to take a promotion in today's time?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, you have to take the best deal for you.
Absolutely. And my team, not just me, my team.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because when you work with agents like you do, I probably work with probably about 100 agents now at this point across the country. And, awesome. I know what it's like to have a group of 30 agents or so. It's a lot, and then there's a lot of people that you're looking after, right? Your decisions impact more than just you. Right. And it's interesting too, because, I hear the same things probably Justin hears about the Facebook groups, and, I'm friends with Justin, I'm friends with Joanna. And, it's interesting because sometimes I'll have conversations with the two of them, and I've heard it all. I heard, the people that run the Facebook groups are a bunch of frat boys. I'm that was recently as this year. I'm like, well, I didn't go to college. I'm like, I don't even know what that means really.
What if you were though? I mean, that's the thing. So what if you were? There's a lot of frat boys that are very loaded, either, that they've done their own. It's not all been handed down. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. It's hard to believe, and I apologize, Christian, I shouldn't interrupt you.
No, you're
fine. I think when you've been hurt so many times in the industry, it's hard to believe somebody is really real. Even with, Cody, it's hard to believe, Nate, that these people really care about you because nobody else has, and they're making money off you. And these guys aren't making money off you, yet, or, it could turn into that, but they're investing into people before they get their return. And I mean, even not bad mouthing anybody, but even, my husband is like, you're paying them a lot of money. I said, yeah, but that they're training me like I would a coach or education, a school, anything like that. It's hard to see that in that mindset when you have that, well, you just want my money, but when you go to, any of these conferences, I've always walked away with something. I've never gotten ripped off ever. Yeah. And likewise. I think that's a fact. Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. I mean, I think, that's beautifully put. And I find that most of the people that really badmouth the 8% nations, the Medicare cons, now the 6-figure Medicare agent summits, which is happening in June, whatever the case might be, I find that it comes from people that have never been to one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, maybe just get in the room and experience it. And then if you don't like it, then fine. That's fair.
But see, the FMO's telling you that it's a recruiting thing instead of, and do y'all want to have new agents? Yes, we're always recruiting, always. And the thing they said at SWAT tonight, always recruit, always, because I tell my agents, they get comfortable, which they're supposed to be. So I've got to replace you, but I don't want to wait till you get comfortable,
right,
to replace you. And so the fear of me. And even when I took my agent to 8%, I was like, I was so scared she's going to find someone else,
Yeah.
And I even told her, I said, I'm not going to lie. I feel nervous. But then I'm learning, the more, you go to these, the more you learn people, and you're in this business long enough. The ones that are going to stay that are supposed to. The ones that aren't, are going to go. But look, I came back to the first guy that I went back to, so if it's meant to be, yes, does it, sometimes suck because you spend a little money and some time, and sometimes a lot of both. And then they decide, hey, this Porsche comes along and offers all this. And, I get it. And even like with mine, I guess he thought I wasn't going to take a raise because he paid, for my radio. So it's a tough business because money and emotions are involved, in it together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things where, like, I find with FMOs and agents and, uplines and downlines and all that stuff, it's definitely very much like a relationship, and there's emotions involved, like, and then sometimes, have you ever known a couple where, like, they break up, it's just a mess, and both of them has their own side of the story and they're just dramatically different. You're like, okay, well, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, right? You get that too sometimes with agents and FMOs, and like, and certainly there's certain circumstances where it's very clear you could be, okay, the FMO messed up here, right? Or whatever the case might be. But it's almost like, it's a complicated thing. It's hard to kind of distinguish it into one, maybe, little bubble there, because it is relationships. It's people working with other people. And, it's sometimes an FMO could be great and the agent could be great, and they just might not be a great personality mesh, for whatever reason. I've seen that before. I've had agents, I'm sure, over the years, that I might not be the best match for their personality, and they might go somewhere else, and that's fine. I think there's so much variables that can kind of go into it. I think it gets a little convoluted sometimes, but it's interesting. It's interesting because I've always been fascinated by, the psychology of it, and, kind of, what makes someone attracted to this group over this group, or vice versa.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Misty, one thing I wanted to talk to you about, I wanted to talk about a couple of things that, I feel like you're really well known for. The first one being grassroots marketing, right? So when I think of grassroots marketing, I think of, getting out in the public, hosting events, right? Doing things that kind of get you around the community, right? That you get out into the community and kind of get people to know you. Talk a little bit about grassroots marketing and maybe what it's done for your business. And how would you best define grassroots marketing for anybody that might not be familiar?
So when I started this business, I came from corporate America and I didn't have your commission only. So what I did, even with the carry, when I was captive, is I went and networked and made a relationship in the community with the senior centers, did health fairs, anything that really didn't cost any to, a little money to get leads. I went to where the seniors were. Once you get past that and you get a little money, you can do big things, but mostly working with the senior centers, doing bingos, going to the Dollar Tree, getting nice prizes, going to these low income housing, doing bingo. They have this penny game where you could do pennies. It's been so long since I've done it, what it was called, but it just took pennies and the Dollar Tree. So you could take $20 and, have 20 people come to your bingo and get 4 or 5 leads, from that, on top of any place that had where you could set up a booth was just phenomenal, from that. And I think I'm on the spot and I'm getting nervous now and I'm forgetting everything that I've done. But churches, food banks were big for us because you Medicare, Medicaid on it. And you didn't need anything but your booth. You didn't have, the carriers would give you giveaways, so you didn't have to pay to set up there. Salvation Armies, dollar stores. People don't realize that Salvation Armies actually have a senior center in them. And then they do so much for the community on top of it too. Food stamps, clothing. So you could get a lot of Medicaid agents, partner up with them, doing health fairs with them, or just coming into their little groups and providing, that. So being that it was everything I could in the community, I read every time I get the paper, I read it because it had a little section of what events are going on in the community. And I would always call, can I set up a booth? We have all these farmer markets now. Can I set up a booth there? Anywhere, can I come talk to during your lunch, during church services, or corporate? We're now starting to do going to corporations and talking to their retirees to say, hey, I partnered up with a financial advisor and she talks finance and I talk Medicare, and it takes relief off HR, because a lot of them, if you reach out, they don't really know Medicare. We're the expert for them. So that takes the relief off them. Big thing is referrals, find out what they do. Where did you work? Can you get me that contact? Who do you know? I mean, the same thing that we learned when we do any kind of sales position. Who do you know that can give me, for instance, the guy I just signed up last Friday, he's a union. And I said, can you get me in front of your union? I go, do they not give you, retirement coverage? No, they don't. And there's 300 retirees in there. There's people, since COVID, a lot of seniors were laid off. Going in to talk, there was people that I met that can't afford their group insurance. So they won't take their group. I met a lady that took her medical only, not her drugs, because she wasn't on any drugs. So she got off, she had a penalty, and she'd been working for 5 years, So, it's crazy. That people, if you could just think outside the box, where can I go and where can I be? Because I'm lucky. I'm not sure about Utah, but I'm sure it's the same exact way. We are an outdoor community. Yep. And we are active. Yep. It's a very active community. And there's a senior center in every little city, on top of, if you add the church activities, the food banks. I mean, I am always RAM. Have you ever heard of RAM, Remote Area Medical? It's free medical, free dental, free vision. We were in it, and then one broker that was on a captive team did something and they wouldn't let us back. Now we're back in. There's about 400 people. They come at midnight and stand in line because it's first come, first serve, and they shut it down. Like, it's absolutely, absurd.
That's crazy. That's crazy. No, I hadn't heard of that before, but that's crazy. I mean, one thing that fascinates me about grassroots marketing is there is 1,000,001 things you can do that is creative. I think what I loved, what you just said there, what I took away from that, was be creative and think outside the box, because I really think that's what it comes down to. Like, I lived in Florida for a year, 2017. And, before that time, I hadn't really done anything grassroots marketing related. I built my business at that time cold calling, and I got in like 14. And so my wife and I went down there. We lived down there. There was a broker manager for Humana that kind of showed me grassroots marketing. He's like, hey, if you want to survive here, you're going to have to do some grassroots stuff, And so one thing he taught me how to do was rock paintings. You go to like Lowe's and you get these like smooth garden rocks, and you go to senior centers or, 55 and up communities, whatever the case might be, and you show them how to paint rocks. Be like, okay, everybody, we're going to paint this turtle today, or whatever the case might be. And I couldn't believe how effective those were. I was just like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I find that with grassroots marketing, like, whatever you can do to make yourself memorable, right, is going to make yourself stand out.
Well, and also provide, when you're providing some kind of, something that will help someone else, PNCs, financial advisors. I do seminars for almost all Edward Jones. There's independent ones here. There's Capital. I mean, most financial advisors know me just from being in this community, my commercials, my branding, and they're talking to their clients every day. I've even asked, can you send out a mailer? I'll be glad to give you a $35 referral or I'll even pay for the mailer. I can get a carrier to pay for the mailer to say, hey, Now we're offering Medicare. Here's a person to call. They've got the book of business already. Carriers want that kind of, that's better than buying a list, when you already have the relationship and the list. And I think that's how I made it. And with no money starting in this business was thinking outside the box. How can I do this with no money? Because you don't have the gas reimbursement. You don't have the salary. Your renewals don't start till the first year. So you had to figure out all of that. And I had the blessing of doing it for Fortune 500 companies before I came out on my own, and then building my name before I came out on my own, also. The catchy name didn't come though till after I became a broker, and I was just happened to be on the radio. And a good friend of mine that got me on the radio for a decent price that I owe also part of my success to, because he gave it to me. He saw I was a single mom, but I was working hard as a good Christian woman, and he wanted to help. And he gave me prices that I could afford. And he's like, "Hey, Medicare Misty's here." And I was like, "Yeah, she is."
Yes, she is.
And I just became Medicare Misty, from then on out. So
I love it.
It truly, these things are God things that led you into the right path. But I know why people struggle in this business. One, they don't have, the actual right FMO, and FMOs get so big, they don't have enough people to support all their agents. And some will hire to hire. And it's just a number game instead of really trying to help these people, because I feel like there's a lot of agents out there that could have really made it if they had the right FMO. Now, there are some lazy people and not motivated. And I tell them before I hire them, if you are not self-motivated, if you cannot work this job from 8 to 5 without me having to call you, you're not going to do well in this, because you really have to do that first year. You need to be beating the pavement and take a list of all your PNCs, all your financial advisors, all your events, because with internet, you can find anything, all your low income housing, and take cookies or whatever it may be. Take carrier giveaways. You don't even need to spend your own money. Take their giveaways, go introduce yourself, set up an event, but do it every single day until your renewals become so comfortable that you're just answering the phone. And I think that's where the disconnect is on some of the FMOs, is explaining that to somebody. This weekend they were talking about at the seminar, our whole life we've been told, no, don't do that. Don't do, as a kid. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a word we heard the most. And then get a job, go to school, get a job, go to school, you'll be fine. And so we're in that, mentality that's what we have to do to make it. Well, then all of a sudden, I want to be a business owner. And it's like, kind of like Medicare. You just get a book, you have to find a book, or you get a good mentor that's going to show you, every day, if you follow this. I have a playbook now. I go through the playbook as soon as they start. This is yours, you take it. It also has an exercise for us to learn each other. I kind of love what Lauren Askin does with her. She has a survey on what kind of gifts you like, what kind of surprises, you like, because a lot of times we'll give gifts and it's what we like. We're not finding out what they like,
Right.
So being able to do that, we learn our people, and it gives them a kind of a connection, but it also, they have this book if they ever fail. But I tell them, I'm not a micromanager, and this is your business, but you got to work it from 8 to 5, if not 8 to 9, because you're self-employed, for at least 2 years, just giving up a season to have the rest of your life to do whatever you want. That's not too much to ask. 2 years, people spend 10 to 15 years in a company and are miserable.
9 to 5 for 10. Some people, 30 years, 40 years, 9 to 5. And
absolutely,
it's crazy that some people, they hesitate at really going hard for 2 or 3. I think really, what I love about this conversation is I love that, you have a deep-seated connection with your agents. I can tell just by talking to you. And I do believe, it's incredibly important to have a good mentor, so one thing that me and Justin have in common, is with him getting into business with his dad, everything like that. I got into the business working with my dad, when I first started. And my dad had been in 25 years before I started. And so having him as a teacher and a mentor was invaluable to me early
Absolutely.
on. And so I feel like, if you can find that person, you latch on to that person, because the grass might seem greener somewhere else, but it's not always. We actually started the process this year to change our FMO from one we've been with a long time, one we've been happy with, and someone offered us something that was just ridiculous. So
that was me.
We were offered something just stupid, ridiculous. So we're like, okay, we're going to do this. And, it just turned out that it started to become apparent that it wasn't going to be exactly what we expected. We went back to the other FMO, within a heartbeat, because they treated us so well, and like for me, it was home,
Right.
And there's that I feel like every agent should have that. I feel like if you're just completely on your own, you have nobody to call, I think that makes this very difficult to be successful in this business.
Right. Yeah, exactly right.
Misty, I want to be respectful of your time, but there's one more topic I did want to jump in with you. Probably my favorite topic to talk about is branding, right?
Yes.
You kind of touched on it a little bit,
right?
But I love the concept of branding, right?
Me
Like
too.
I love the psychology of it, right? I love, that people pursue you instead of you pursuing them. And I wish I learned it earlier in my career, to be honest. But talk a little bit about some of the things that you do to brand yourself, to brand Medicare Misty, to get that attention and that real estate in people's heads.
I think the biggest thing first is logos, like Starbucks. Starbucks logo has nothing to do with Starbucks, but we all know it's Starbucks.
Yes,
so I got a logo. I got a jingle. I have my own jingle. So I play it all over the radio. And it's funny. Someone come in and my granddaughter will not stop singing your song. I'm like, great. Can she go to the senior center and the nurse home, the retirement homes, and sing it? and some will gripe, like, I hate your jingle. It won't get out of my head. And I said, that's the purpose. So I have a jingle. I have my own magazine. I send a quarterly magazine to my clients, quarterly, to stay in front of them. If we don't stay in front of our clients, these call centers are going to take over. And right. I make sure that I stay in front of them. And I actually learned that from one of my best friends from real estate. So I stay in front of my clients at least 4 to 5 times a year. Christmas cards, thank you cards, the magazine, and then my events. Like I have a free zoo day coming up Friday. So they got a letter saying, hey, come out and check the zoo out and come hang out with us. Then they get, when I do seminars, they get in the mail, hey, I've got seminars. Now I'm trying to go to, because mailing is getting so expensive, and my book, I've been doing it for so long, is getting so big that email would be better. And majority of them are on email. And even if they weren't, it'd be cheaper to take the ones that weren't, off.
Yeah.
So, that would be the, how to do that. On top of, I help with the community. My logo is on anything that I will sponsor, and they advertise for you when you help with the community. I'm on a bus. I'm on a Carter bus that goes at 5 a.m. in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, all over town. That was probably pretty expensive, but that's been one of my dreams. Same with the magazine for a long time. Now I'm on 6 buses. So before I would go around town chasing them to see, okay, where's it going to be? And I would always miss them. And then I'd get pictures saying, I saw your face on the bus today. And then friends would call from school and be like, Misty's on a bus. And so doing that, doing radio, constant radio, believe it or not, there are still a lot of seniors that read the paper. The papers here is expensive. It's outrageous, but I always either break even or make more money. But I am trying to brand my name by anything. I'm on benches. I'm on golf courses.
I love it.
I'm on scorecards. I mean, anything where seniors are going to be. I'm on shopping carts in the grocery store. And I will tell you a funny story that I was going to say for the conference, but I'll go ahead and share it with you. So one night we had a little, went out for happy hour, and I put my name on a restaurant in black. And so all these people are like, you're everywhere. And I'm like, I know. And then my husband actually came up with a great idea. He bought me a puzzle with my name on it. And he did one. He loves puzzles. And then I bought like 20 of them and took those puzzles to the senior center. I mean, I have air fresheners. So when people come in, my logo will be dangling from their rearview mirror. I just bought matches. I go to all the clubs and I put the matches. I've done fortune cookies, and it says call Medicare Misty, that's their fortune. A lady just contacted me and we covered up potato chips with my logo. So anyway, chapstick.
Wow.
I mean, I do what the carriers do, but to a more extent. Like if you come to Chattanooga, you would either see me, hear me everywhere in Chattanooga. I am all over. And I'm sure, because it's funny, none of my competition was doing any of this. And so now they're starting to do radio and starting to do, because I'm everywhere.
Because
And
of your
they're like,
success.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. I mean, I've been fascinated by the concept of it for a while now, of branding yourself. I mean, one thing that the first thing I think I ever did to brand myself was I self-published a book about Medicare, and I put it on Amazon. And it was unbelievable because, I mean, that book has sold thousands and thousands of copies. It's just unbelievable. And so it started with that one book. And then, now I've written 4 books. I feel like anything that you can do, and for anybody in the audience listening, I think, my suggestion when it comes to branding would probably be this. I think anything that you can do that will get people, when they think about your product or service, to think about you first, just simultaneously. You want them to go together, right? So like people in your area, Misty, they think about Medicare, they think of Medicare Misty. Like just, it's almost like simultaneously, like they just think about Medicare and that's what comes to mind. They're not even trying to do it. It's just because they've seen you so often in so many places. Like we did the Everything Medicare podcast about 3 years ago. We started that. We have 260 episodes now.
Wow.
We get like 2,000 or 3,000 downloads a week, something like that.
Wow.
And so like I love the concept of branding, and I know it's done a ton for your business. It's done a ton for our business as well. And now we're starting to do some more of the, we're doing branded direct mail now. We're starting to do some more of that other stuff locally in the community here. But I find that agents I feel like they work too hard for too long, right? Because
Yes.
I always tell people, and you're probably one of the few people in our industry that can probably understand this, but like I always tell people that everybody says a referral is the best lead possible. And it probably is. But if there's anything that even comes close, it's somebody that called you because they saw something that you're branded with.
Absolutely.
Because
And I've had it, men, it's funny, wives will come in and like, I told him to call you 12 times, but until he saw you on TV, he wouldn't call you.
yeah, yeah,
And so it does give validation. I mean, referrals are validation because you trust the person that gave it to you. But for some reason, if you're on TV or on a magazine or on a bus, you got more clout. And it's hard to do that when you first start out, which is, how the grassroots marketing got me started and fed me and my son, because I didn't have I had 401k, but I didn't want to use it for that. And I knew
right.
there's got to be a way I can do it and compete against corporate America with their big, pocketbook. But, what I found out, they're really not doing that anymore. That I'm not running into them. The only ones I ran into was the United Healthcare ICAs. We had, issues with them kind of taking our stuff, and but that's kind of dwindled, since now. But still, I'm in the community. When I'm out there, there's usually not another agent at an event with me or my agent.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's sad, but I think they just don't know. And I think also when people say, what do you mean event? Or how do you go to a PNC and say, hey, give me referrals, And I think it's just by saying, I go in and make a joke first of like, hey, it's Wisdom, I can't talk about it. It rhymes with Wednesday if I'm there. And I'm like,
yeah,
I heard you were good, so I brought you some treats. And then I said, hey, do you deal with Medicare clients? I mean, just make it fun, build a
yeah,
relationship like you would if you were getting a sale. And then just say, I'll pay a referral. And if you can't pay a referral, just say, hey, once I get there, I'll send you a referral.
yeah,
Either way, there's ways to do it with no money, because I made it happen. I had no help with my son, so I had to make it happen between 8 and 6 because he had school and then he had ball. So I had that time and I had no longer to do it. And weekends I had to be, normally at the ball field. I didn't really want to miss a lot, but there were times I had to like drop them off, go do an event, and then come back. And
yeah.
I mean, I tell my agents every day, if you're not making money, you're not working, and you're not talking to enough people. Dentists out there, dentists and vision, hearing aids, nobody's touching those areas that we can make them money. I've paid several dentists $50,000 in AEP just by saying yes. And do you think they don't call me? I mean, because I've made them money. I'm not just calling them and saying, give me, give me, give me. Same thing with carriers. I mean, people are like, how do I get carriers trust? You got to give them numbers.
Right.
They got to get paid too, and they got a boss. But if you give them numbers, they want to help you. If you're working, if you're not just going, gimme, 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 you know. So it honestly, and at the convention, and I can't wait to come to this one. And I didn't know about yours, so I'll look into yours too. But I cannot wait because it really isn't that hard if you get in front of the right people and ask the right, you know, and it's amazing that we are all competitors, but still all able to help you. Like Joanna probably is the first person that I have ever, that I met. And I was like, you help people in your area? Cause I'm like, I'm cool if you're in an area that I'm not in, but you're going to come in my backyard. I kind of get a little, but I'm learning now, you know, I'm like, hey, I don't know about my area, but she's been good at that in her area. She's helped them. And it says in the Bible too, that the more people you help, you get what you want, they get what they want, and God gets what he wants. And there's enough for everybody. I think once people realize that there's enough for everybody, you know, it's true.
Yep. I agree 100%. I think, you know, there's more than enough business for all of us. Misty, I want to be respectful of your time. I know you spent a good amount of time with me on here today. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I love doing these kind of things and connecting with people like you, and congrats to all your success. And I cannot wait to be able to share the stage with you at Medicare Con and kind of see the value that you're going to bring to everybody. And plug for Medicare Con, Justin, you can bill us later, but
or we can bill him later.
We can bill you later. Yeah. We'll
come on, Christian.
The bill's in the mail.
And congratulations to you. And I appreciate it's an honor for you to let me on here. I appreciate that.
The pleasure's all mine. I'm sure it's the first of many. Well, everybody, thanks. Oh, one last question for you, Misty. Where can people get connected with you if they see this and something you said identified with you and they wanted to connect?
Yeah, MedicareMisty.com has all my information, even my magazines, even my jingle, even I'm with the cool thing because are you a veteran also?
I'm not, no.
You're not, okay. My husband's a retired Air Force, and so there's a jingle, there's this thing called freedomsings.org, and they help veterans get their song out there. And so his song's on there too for veterans. And then it talks about the options that we, you know, what we provide for them. It's on there. So Medicare.com, awesome. MedicareMisty.com, sorry. And then everything's on there. You can reach me.
Well, awesome, guys. Check that out. And Misty, thank you again for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge with us today.
Thank you.
Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor, drop a like. Please, please, please drop a like. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. And we'll be back next time with another video. Here's to your success and your abundance. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching.